No matter the promotion, referees always play a major role in determining the outcome of a fight. All they have to do is make the wrong call and everything goes bizarre. These 5 shocking referee mistakes in MMA have altered mixed martial arts history and created some of the worst endings. Let's check them out. Steve Mazzagatti. Steve Mazzagatti is one of the referees that made dangerous errors while officiating. Mazzagatti has a record of several questionable calls to his credit. These blunders have left him on the wrong side of many fighters and even the UFC president Dana White. Mazzagatti is famous for his late stoppages. This was evident in the WSOF 3 welterweight bout between John Fitch and Joshua Berkman. Steve Mazzagatti only realized that Fitch had been choked out cold when Berkman released the choke on his opponent and stood up in celebration. This was a dangerous position for Fitch to be in, as he could have ended up with brain damage. At the start of the fight, the two fighters came at each other with everything. Berkman knocked Fitch down with a left and right hook and followed with punches on the ground before grabbing the guillotine. Fitch never tapped and ref Steve Mazzagatti didn't stop it. Fitch went out and Berkman recognized it, simply let go and stood up, with Fitch unconscious on the ground. At the end of the WSOF 3 fight, Dana White actually tagged Steve, the worst referee ever. While speaking to the press during a media event, White stated that if he were a fighter himself, he'd be extremely uncomfortable with Mazzagatti officiating his fights.
Mazzagatti's a fucking toolbox. I mean, he literally did nothing.
If you're enjoying this content and want to see more videos like this, drop a comment and subscribe to the channel to never miss out on any of our upcoming videos. Mario Yamasaki. Another referee that's been heavily criticized in the history of mixed martial arts is Mario Yamasaki. Yamasaki has allowed several assaults to continue in front of him without making any move to stop it. Mario spent 2 decades as a referee for the UFC, and throughout he's always been a thorn in Dana White's side. One of his shocking mistakes took place at the matchup between Donald "Cowboy" Cerrone versus Cowboy Oliveira, UFC Fight Night, Cowboy vs. Cowboy. At the UFC Fight Night 83, Cerrone was initially scheduled to meet with Tim Means, but the latter had to be replaced when he was suspended for violating anti-doping regulations. Cerrone dominated Oliveira on his feet before taking the fight to the canvas and locking him up in a patented Cerrone submission. Oliveira did not waste time in tapping out after the choke was applied, but Yamasaki failed to stop the fight immediately. Oliveira had to tap up to 10 times before he could get the attention of the referee. Cerrone, who's always been ruthless, almost strangled Oliveira. Now, if you've been an MMA fan for long, you would know that screwing up a tap submission could lead to some serious brain damage with all that oxygen being cut off for so long. On some occasions, a fighter might choose not to tap out early, but Oliveira tapped like his hand was on fire, and there's no excuse to justify Yamasaki screwing up here. One of the key functions of a referee is to protect a fighter, and Yamasaki failed at it. Al Guinea. The next shocking referee mistake happened at UFC 263's event between Jamal Hill and Paul Craig. The referee to blame for this blunder is none other than Al Guinea, who stopped the fight way too late. Jamal Hill appeared to suffer a serious arm injury before his fight with Paul Craig. Most times, late referee stoppages come from knockouts, but this one was very different, as it involved a submission hold that was allowed to go on for far too long, leaving Hill badly injured after the fight. Craig caught Hill in an armbar in the opening round and cranked on the limb until it appeared that Hill's left arm was broken at the elbow. Somehow though, referee Al Guinea failed to spot that Hill's arm was swinging around like a piece of spaghetti as Craig attempted to secure a triangle choke and allowed the fight to continue for far too long. The referee eventually intervened, but at that point Hill's arm appeared to be thoroughly ruined. Although it was later revealed that Hill's elbow was dislocated rather than broken, leaving him with a much less severe injury. A lot of damage was done following the dislocation when Guinea should have stepped in. it's safe to say that this was a senselessly late referee stoppage.
And it looks like Jamal Hill is tapping, but that's just because he has no control over that arm anymore.
Vyacheslav Kiselev. For our next option, the UFC had to step in to remove the referee from further duty after he allowed a fighter to absorb a sustained beating. Vyacheslav Kiselev was the referee on duty for the welterweight bout between Zaleski dos Santos and Benoit Saint-Denis at UFC 267 in Abu Dhabi. Dos Santos was on top in the second round and landed a series of unanswered knees and punches, but Kiselev refused to step in, even when Saint-Denis retreated to the fence and covered up. The fight ultimately went the 3-round distance, with Dos Santos winning 29-26 on all 3 judges' scorecards. Kiselev was then removed from his final officiating duty of the night, refereeing the light heavyweight clash between Volkan Ozdemir and Magomed Ankalaev. Former 2-weight UFC champion Daniel Cormier said the performance of Kiselev was the worst he'd seen in his life. It makes you respect the good ones like Jason Herzog, John McCarthy and Herb Dean and many more. I hated watching that, and I hope Benoit is heading to the hospital right now. This list will not be complete without the man who's made the wrong calls both as a referee and as a judge.
Right, well, I say that maybe it should have been stopped in that moment.
I'm not saying maybe, it should have been stopped. This fight should not be going on still.
Cecil Peoples. Cecil Peoples' decisions over the years has made him the enemy of fans and fighters alike, and rather than trying as much as possible to remain invisible in the ring, Peoples succeeded in stealing some attention for himself by using catchphrases and gestures in the cage that seemed just plain odd. While refereeing the Daniel Cormier vs Tony Johnson bout, Peoples put up a surprising act by performing an odd karate chop and fuse opening to signal the fighters to start fighting. Peoples has also been known to botch calls, for example in the Owen Rubio vs Mike Gonzalez fight where he missed that Rubio tapped out. Gonzalez thought that he submitted and released the hold, but since Peoples did not intervene, the bout continued. Rubio now had the opportunity of coming back to win. Peoples also got in the middle of a heated controversy when he stopped the Nate Quarry vs Pete Sell fight too soon. Most fans have argued that he should have delayed it a little bit. Which referee mistake do you think we missed out? Let us know in the comment section below. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.